Hello and welcome to the Buildup here on Balls.ie in partnership with Ladbrokes, where we look ahead to the biggest events of the sporting weekend each and every week. And we're doing it with the Premier League and football this week, and we're doing it in the company, as always, of Ladbrokes Ambassador, former Republic of Ireland International Kevin Doyle. Kevin, how are you today? It's the last week of summer and the sun's come out.
Yeah, I'm great, Mick. Sun is shining. Kids are back to school in a few days. Everyone's happy.
I had a feeling that might be a positive.
You won't be hearing them in the background anymore, hopefully.
I want to start this week. We'll talk about the matches, and you can see there the Ladbrokes 1-2-3 includes Liverpool-Chelsea this week, which is already a massive clash this year in just week 3 of the Premier League. But there's a few things I just wanted to get to first. But the first one is comments yesterday that have gone around the world, really, from Rio Ferdinand about his former teammate, actually, at Man United, Phil Jones, who's obviously still at the club. And United fans are frustrated with that because they don't really see a future in him there. And obviously, there's an idea that he's, that there's money being held up in him that could be spent elsewhere. But I just thought the comments from Ferdinand were really, really interesting. I wanted to get your take on them. I'll just read out a couple of them here. If I was in the squad with someone like that, I wouldn't talk to them. They are a waste of time. Why would you chat? Why would you chat to them and give them any energy, taking it away from my other teammates who are out there to play and go to war for 90 minutes every day? I think he should have gone ages ago. He should have gone before Chris Smalling went, find a new club and play some football. And then he's done well. Listen, good luck to him if you can get it. Staying at Man United is a great gig. But I look at him as a person. Are you really happy sitting there all these years? Like, I just wonder what you make of that, if that was coming from a former teammate, first of all, and where you kind of stand on like someone like Phil Jones's position, who's been kind of put in this place. He's not getting a game at United. He's had a lot of injuries. Is that necessarily his fault?
No, it's not his fault. He's been very unlucky injuries. He played a lot to begin with, and he was seen as going to be the future star, best, I first said future captain, possibly best centre half they've ever had. So it hasn't gone to plan, but Rio Ferdinand isn't sitting in with him in the dressing room or seeing him day to day, so he doesn't know what he's doing. If he's been a negative influence, he could be a positive influence behind the scenes. Who knows? It's not his fault he's been injured. It's not his fault he's been picked. It's not him or his fault that he's been given a 4 or 5 year contract after his first contract that brings him up for another year or two. If he believes in himself, which he does, he comes across as a decent fella. And if he believes in himself, he thinks, you know what, I can get back where I was. I just need a decent run injury free. I just need to get some confidence in form. I can play for Man United again. So that's obviously what he's thinking. Just because he's not the star player on the team or he's not playing week in, week out, doesn't mean he's a bad person. He's dragging energy from, that's to me a warped way of looking at it. Just because he's not playing, I don't have any value in him. He's not in the squad. It's to me strange comments. Maybe Rio Ferdinand knows more about it. Maybe he's heard rumors of him being a negative influence, but no one else has heard that. Haven't heard anything like that about him. Only good things about him. So to come out and say to question him as a person is, his values really, because he's not in the first team. It sort of sums up sort of what's wrong with soccer or football or sports sometimes, in that if you're not top player or star, you're worthless to me or the football club. Get out of here. You're only a nice person if you're in the team or in the squad playing every week.
Yeah. There was there's been lots of issues with this over the years. I think of there was a famous Alex McLeish bomb squad at Villa, as they called it. But I know even when yourself,
I was in a good one, Mick.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a pretty famous one. And I'm just wondering, at Wolves, I'm just wondering what you kind of think of, it's the narrative around it. It feels to me like fans, and sometimes the media can join in on this, tend to take the side of the club in this, whereas you don't really think about the individual. There's always the amount of money that people earn is always thrown out rather glibly, as if you don't only have a 10-year career, as if you don't pay half it in tax, so on and so forth. But it's there is this sense that you should be playing for half of what you've signed a contract for, because I don't really want you here anymore. And that's
the club try to pressure you, I think, and it's just the way it is. You have to realize that and not let it affect you too much. They try to pressure you into leaving. Just in my own situation, you brought up I was at Wolves, and I'd had a couple of really good seasons at Wolves, and there was other teams interested in signing me, and it was put to Wolves, and they were like, no, you've plenty of years left in your contract. We want you to stay. You're not going anywhere. And I was, fair enough. That's perfectly, I like the club. I like the manager. And yeah, if that's what you want, I will stay. But then on the reverse, when my form wasn't as good a year or two later, all of a sudden there's, a different manager comes in, your form isn't as good. They were trying to change things up because we'd been relegated obviously as well, and they wanted a fresh start. But all of a sudden you need to leave now, and you're in a squad that was probably 7 or 8 of us at least who would have been in the first team, who all of a sudden were training at 2 o'clock, maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day. We're arriving when all the rest of the squad was leaving, and all of a sudden the narrative changes, and it doesn't matter that you have a contract and we want you out here, and you're basically portrayed as a hindrance and a bad egg, and once you're not wanted, you should leave. But it works both ways, and if you're a player and you're told you're staying and you're willing to accept that, and it should be the same the other way when you're not wanted. It's a you're put on a list and you're told. In our case, we're changing in the youth changing room by ourselves, and at an afternoon training time. So it's it's just the way it is, and you realize as a professional sports person, it happens at a lot of clubs, but people have to realize it works both ways, and clubs try to portray it as the innocent one, and it's always the professional footballer who's the money grabbing greedy one.
Yeah.
But the contracts suit them when it suits them, and when it doesn't suit them, they try to coerce you and get everyone against you, and turn there'll be different media articles maybe about you, and feed it to the public that you're maybe a bad influence, or a group of you are bad influence, and you need them out. So puts you under a bit of pressure. In fairness, in my instance with with Wolves, I came back into the squad and did play again in the first team, and then left on good terms with everyone. But I can definitely see how it can be manipulated, and players aren't always in the right. Of course, there's players in the wrong, but not always, and clubs have plenty to do it too.
Yeah, I think it's more that there's a warped mentality to assume that the player is in the wrong rather than even looking at the individual thing. Can I just go back on that? I don't want to spend all day on it, but what's the mentality there? Because it is an awkward situation, because that if you go off and maybe take the pay cut and go to the championship or whatever, you're good enough to go and earn that, or earn your stripes back or whatever, and play through what were probably your late 20s at that stage. But also there's a right and wrong element to it, and you feel wronged. Yeah. So it must be a really difficult situation without even saying what the decision was. It must be just keeping you up at night thinking, how did I find myself in this position?
You do. You try to listen. You definitely stress about. And in my case, I did leave. I took a pay cut and left, actually, on loan, and then twice on loan. I took a pay cut to leave, and then I eventually left when my contract was up. So, yes, the thing in your head, as I said, you go, well, I stuck around when you wanted me to stay, and I could have left to maybe bigger and better things, and I didn't. I honored my contract, and now it doesn't suit you, and it does. But in my case, yeah, listen, you manage it, don't you? You try to turn everything into positive. You try to train hard. You try to be fit for when you do move. In my case, I have very young kids, so I was like, listen, if I'm training at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that means I get to spend time with kids in the morning, or whatever it might be. You try to spin it whatever way you can. And hope it's not forever. In my case, it wasn't. There was a few lads who were there for maybe 6 months or more doing that, and I'd imagine it was very draining for them. But everyone moved on, the club moved on, and eventually it was all sorted out. But strange time for all of us, because we would have been first team players in the Premier League, and sort of regular starters at the club, and sort of really decent. Most of us decent people, I would say. So all of a sudden to be bombed out like that, but it's professional sport, and we hadn't performed. So you can see the club's point of view as well. It's more how it's portrayed that I think upsets people. Yeah,
completely get where you're coming from. Very interesting stuff. One of the bigger talking points so far in the league season, we'll talk about individual clubs' forms every week, and we'll get to some of the matches in a few minutes, but has been this idea that the Premier League and the referees have made a conscious decision to let it flow. Is maybe that's maybe the hurling parlance for it rather than the football one, but it comes to a similar thing. Physicality is back in football, Kevin, and Jurgen Klopp and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer don't seem too happy about it, because apparently we've gone back 20 years and it's now dangerous play that the Klopp accused Burnley of, for example. Where do you stand on it?
No, it was great. The games were good. There wasn't much VAR. The first few weeks of the season has been really enjoyable. And the Burnley game, I watched that Burnley game against Liverpool. It was just the way Burnley play. They're physical. They're strong. Like I thought Klopp, and I would have loved them to come afterwards. They won the game. Come out afterwards and go, what a test that was. A different type of game, and we managed to come through that. And fair dues to Burnley, they threw everything at us, and that's the way they try to play. I don't particularly like it, but that's how they're going to try to get results against big teams. But we managed it. How good we were to manage that, and a different, way of playing against us. And we didn't. They came out and moaned, and too physical and blah blah blah. Like you're like, come on, it wasn't that. There was a bit of what would you call it? A bit of just strength, upper body strength from a few players trying to do everything to upset Liverpool. Burnley can't come out and play tippy tappy, whatever way you want to put it. They have to be aggressive, strong, try and settle teams, especially the top 3 or 4 teams. They have to come out and have a different game plan. And listen, it was bordering on freeze or not freeze at different times, but it wasn't the end of the world. It wasn't anyone 2 foot anyone in the head or anything. It was just big physical, and Liverpool are well able to deal with it. Like Klopp, one of the reasons I've loved Klopp as a manager, and I'm not a Liverpool fan, but I've loved him as a manager because he isn't like that. He doesn't come out and moan. He isn't the Jose Mourinho or different managers who moan about everything else. He comes out and is usually so positive. And it's one of the things that's needled me with him in the last 6 months or more. He comes out and his interviews have changed now, where he's finding negatives and positives. He should have been so happy. We won the game, tough challenge, fair dues to Burnley, but we managed to overcome their physicality and move on. And he didn't. He brought it up, moaned about it, and now Burnley are going to double down on that the next day, aren't they? They're going to annoy Liverpool. And fair dues to them. Like, Stoke City used to needle Arsenal, didn't they? And things that was a bit physical. Yeah. We got results against them. And Liverpool won the game. Get on with it. Be happy and take a massive positive from that. Just disappointed, in Klopp. I enjoyed the game, actually. I enjoyed that game to see a bit different, someone trying to do something that's a bit physical. But so what? You're professional athletes. You're going to the gym. You're strong. Deal with it.
Yeah, you kind of think of lads that will go out and injure a player or so on and so forth. That's still going to be dealt with in the same way. So it's like nothing is going to do any damage in what's being allowed here. It's just whether you're going to win freeze or not. So I can't really see why it doesn't at least help level the playing field some way so that physicality can at least match and have different styles of games. But I was thinking one thing, though, is that players are going to have to get used to this very quickly and cop onto it. I saw there was, not to always bring up the Aston Villa example, Kevin, but, when Callum Wilson got through in the first couple of minutes, Mings was pushed off the ball. I think fine, but it would have been a free any other time. And he just stopped playing and started running towards the referee. Meanwhile, Callum Wilson should have scored. Players are going to have to really cop on and start playing the whistle immediately, aren't they? There's a mindset change there.
Well, no, but that's always the case. Play the whistle. That was,
yeah.
Means what's he doing there?
Absolutely
going on. Your centre half, just go till it's, if it's going to be reviewed or brought back, worry about it then. But go till the whistle blown, argue with the referee afterwards. Trying to force a referee into something. It's a physical game. No one says he can't barge into someone. No one says you can't have 50 tackles shoulder to shoulder, use your body strength, your upper strength. If you can't deal with it, it's not going to be a long career for him. Centre halves give it, and then when they, the amount of shots they give to centre forwards in the back, I've experienced it in my career, but then the opposite, when you barely touch them, they go down crying like girls. It's amazing how quickly a big man falls, and has done for years. It hasn't changed. But yeah, I'm delighted to see. I hope this bit of moaning doesn't change it. I hope, all it is a little bit of physicality in a game that you're allowed to be physical in. And if you're not going to deal with it, why go to the gym? Why be strong? Why have all these muscles and go around with your shoulders out and your elbows out and your biceps and all? If you don't need them, why do all that? Just don't trot around like you're Mike Tyson if you're not going to be able to take a few shoulders or a few shots and. It's enjoyable. I like the physical side of football. I don't know, talking elbows to the head or, knee-high tackles or breaking people's legs. Just a bit of strength, upper body strength, hold people off, using it's another skill. If you're able to do it right without fouling someone, it's a great asset to have. And hopefully we'll see a bit more of it.
Yeah, well put. What's it? Weights for dates was the expression back in the day, but as opposed to for strength. Before we get to the 1, 2, 3 games, then the Ireland squad's being announced tomorrow. it's a massive triple header coming up, and we'll talk about it more next week. We've got Portugal, Azerbaijan, and Serbia both at the Aviva. Portugal away, obviously, is the first game. 0 points from 2 games. Like, Stephen Kenny has such a massive week ahead of him. Squads being announced. I'm just wondering where you think we are form-wise, because it has been a weird one. We've got probably less Premier League players than we've ever had before. Shane Duffy back in form is like, everybody is so happy to see that from a personal and a Ireland point of view. But, after that, you've had the likes of Darragh O'Shea drop down, John Egan drop down. You've had even Gavin Bazunu and Troy Parrott have been playing really well in League One. There's players in form, which is unusual going into an Ireland squad of the last couple of years, but they're doing it probably at a lower level. I'm just wondering, would you prefer, if you were going into the Ireland squad, if you were picking the Ireland squad, would you rather lads were scoring goals, even if it was in League One, than sitting on the bench?
I really don't know. I would probably prefer a raft of established high-capped internationals who happen to be on the bench at this, particular time than League One up and coming who may have fantastic careers, but they're in League One at the moment. And ideally, for an international standpoint, you want them, top half the Championship, Premier League. But that is, it's Ireland at the moment. It's where we are. Hopefully, it's a transition period, and those players who are showing form are on the way up. Shane Duffy did brilliant to see. What a turnaround. To see, I just couldn't see him coming back and playing for Brighton and going again in the Premier League, and he has been excellent the first 2 games. So, it's going to be interesting. Tough games, two losses, so far. Playing Portugal away. I saw a few Portugal in the qualifiers in the Euros. I saw them obviously plenty of times. When the qualifiers before, and they weren't great. They weren't fantastic. You just hope we in a bit of, I suppose, hangover from the Euros. And we're disappointed how they left it. They're coming back for the first time together, and it might be, listen, here we go again. Hopefully, maybe we can catch them on the hop a little bit. Big ask. But the 2 games after that, home, we need to get something. Listen, qualify from the group, or that side was probably not definitely gone, obviously, but more than likely gone. But we have to get a bit of positivity for Stephen Kenny if he wants to stay in the job. His contract's coming to an end. If he's trying to get anyone on, or get the country on side, or get people backing him to bring it forward, he needs to get a result or something from those 2 games. So. But sorry, long answer to your question. I think I answered to begin with. I prefer more obviously in the Premier League, but we have to deal with what we have right now. So Troy Parrott's a good one. He showed in that last Ireland game. Was it the last one? Good goal, good performance. Or the second last Ireland game. Maybe.
Yeah, the second last. Andorra.
Yeah, in Andorra. Listen, obviously it's in Andorra, but he still has to go there and do it. He looked like he was finishing the season well. He started this season well. Little things like that, it's hard. I was just looking at it and seeing what way he picks this squad or how he goes about it. But I imagine it's going to be pretty similar to what it was at the end of the season. So, team-wise and everything, it's so hard to start the season. Lads might have full pre-season, like Niggles might be in the team just because of that, not because of their form. It's hard to go on anything in this first 2 games.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more. We'll know the squad obviously next week, but we'll talk ahead of the Portugal game, and we'll kind of discuss what teams, whether you go with the likes of Robbie Brady, who doesn't have a club, Conor Howard, who's not getting the game, Jeff Hendrick, who's not getting the game, etc., or whether you go with these guys who are playing football but at a lower level. So it's got to be a really tough decision for Kenny when it comes to it. We'll just before we get to the international break, though, there is another weekend of Premier League to go, and we're going to do Ladbrokes 1, 2, 3 now, Kevin, where you will pick the scores of 3 games from this weekend's Premier League games. You can play for free on ladbrokes.com now. You pick the right score in 1 game, you get a €1 free bet. You pick it in 2, you get a €5 free bet, and if you get all 3, you win €100 cash. The first one here is the big one, Kevin. It's Liverpool versus Chelsea, 100% records. Like, this is a great game. Liverpool look somewhat back to themselves so far without having really been tested. Van Dijk is back. That's half of it, I think, even in terms of their long balls and their distribution and everything like that. But Chelsea have looked great so far as well. And Lukaku did seem on Sunday in that Chelsea game like he is just such a nightmare for defenders that you think this is going to benefit Mount, it's going to benefit Pulisic, it's going to benefit Havertz, etc., etc. They're all going to be better because Lukaku's there taking up space in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. Taking up space, dragging centre halves, causing them to deal with him, and letting people have space around them. Liverpool at home have just talking about having a crowd back again. It was great to, Anfield was buzzing the other day. That has to be a big advantage to Liverpool. You wonder why they were so poor last season. Could be a big reason for that. They definitely, the way they play goes with the noise and the urging of the crowd, the atmosphere. I just, spoke about already, disappointed with Klopp after the game won about Burnley, so I'm going to have to go with Chelsea. And I really like Lukaku. I beat them up a lot during the Euros. There's a lot of clips of him. I was doing the analysis, so I think I'll go. I'll go with a 2-1 away win to Chelsea.
Okay.
Yeah, just seeing him the other day, and the Lukaku started on fire already, or started on form. He looks so fit as well. Just a different player to what was at Man United. I'm going to stick with 2-1 Chelsea win.
Okay, very good. Definitely a different player. That's the main event of the weekend. It's on Saturday evening on Sky Sports. The second game, then the 2 Sunday games we're going to look at: Burnley versus Leeds. We talked about Burnley already. Leeds, I think we're still to see exactly what they'll be. I see Calvin Phillips playing in the League Cup last night and scoring. That's a big deal for them, I think. I actually wouldn't know where to start with this one. I have to be honest at this stage of the season.
Difficult one. I spoke about Burnley, I think, with you, but maybe they could be my one to drop into the bottom 3 this year. They were very good against Liverpool. Really unsettled them, but I think Leeds will be able to deal with that better. Calvin Phillips coming back, I'd imagine he'll start now. They drew 2-2 at the weekend with Everton Leeds, didn't they? It's their first point, I think, after losing to Man United. I'm going to go with a Leeds win here. I'm going to go with 2-0 to Leeds.
2-0 to Leeds at Turf Moor. And then your old club Wolves against Manchester United reminds me of a goal you scored in this particular fixture, I think, or was it at Old Trafford? A winner late on a good few years ago. I think it might have been at Old Trafford, actually.
Yeah, no, it was at Wolves. Yeah,
how was it?
I get confused between Reading here and Wolves. Wolves and Man United. Wolves. I'm just not sure yet on them, and they haven't really made too many signs. Talking from losing a few players as well. Really interesting this season with Wolves. It could be a dark horse to be down the bottom of the table for such a successful few years. Man United. Again, as we've just spoke about them so much. Losing this or drawing with Southampton, go there and beat Southampton. Southampton look like they're going to be poor. They're such a good start to season, Man United, and everyone on side, and then they go and draw with Southampton. But I'm going to go with Man United.
Okay.
Man United, Cavani's I think he's back in around the squad as well. Cavani, not heard something like that. I've seen him been interviewed, so I'd imagine he must be back. But yeah, Man United to win 3-1.
3-1, right? 3 away wins there. Are you worried, just like the Southampton? I didn't see the Southampton game now, just the highlights, but from even the result and going behind, does it feel immediately like same old? United are going to be good 2 out of 3 weeks and then not be good the third week, and ultimately because of that finish 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, but listen, that's where we thought they were going to be this season.
Yeah.
I think everyone has them down as 3rd or 4th. Anyway, in fairness, so far they've made a couple of good signings. Thought maybe another one coming. So I think they're going to be stronger than last year themselves, but I think the teams around them, Chelsea, are stronger. Liverpool are going to be better. So I just think they are going to be 3rd or 4th. I think it will be a bit like last season. That was a last season result yesterday, wasn't it? Really impressive. Everyone talking about how good they were, and go out then the following week and nearly lose, go down, go behind, come back. This is good that they come back. They always come back. In fairness, when you see them go behind, you think, listen, they still have a chance to come back, but it always seems to take them, 50, 60 minutes to wake up and get going in a game, especially after they've had a good result. The next one always seems to be the case, was last season before. So don't know what it is, psychological or what it is about their preparation. That seems to be the case. They can't get out of first gear in games. But a bit like last season. But I do think they are better than last season in their whole squad. But as I said, everyone else is as well.
Sounds to me like they're the type of team, Kevin, that are probably brought for ice cream after a good result instead of told that they were shite and here's a video analysis of everything we did wrong. You've gone for three away wins in 1-2-3. If you agree, Chelsea to win 2-1, Leeds to win 2-0, and Manchester United to beat Wolves 3-1. If you agree or disagree with Kevin, you can play for free yourself right now on Ladbrokes.com. Ladbrokes 1-2-3. Pick one result, you get €1 free bet. You pick 2, you get €5 free bet. And if you get all 3, you win €100 cash. Kevin, one more Premier League weekend, then it's all about Ireland talk for the next week after that. So get ready, get geared up.
Get studying.
Exactly. We all have to. Thanks a million. Enjoy the week.
Cheers, Mick. Talk to you soon.
Thanks a million to Kevin. We'll be back with more build-up. As I said, lots of Ireland stuff next week to come. Thanks a million for listening. Of course, if you're having a bet on the Premier League or anything else at all in the world of sport, please always gamble responsibly. Visit dunlewy.net for more information.